Recording in progress.
Okay. I would like to start the meeting. I will take a motion to go into executive session.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Andy, we're gonna go down the hall and give you a call.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So how was Greece?
Wonderful. Beautiful.
Good.
Friendly.
No, nice.
Interesting, exciting.
All
All
those
those things.
Good. That's okay. It was
All right, I'll take this as 98. We're ready to go.
We know you're there in spirit.
I could have sworn I saw 6:30.
Yeah,
There was
that's
an
my
executive
fault.
session.
6:30.
That's because I said, I forgot on my manager's memo to change it to
Okay.
6 o'clock. So when I sent that out Friday, that would have been what you guys would have seen. My apologies.
One here, but it's not there. I have it. So the next time I need to sign it. Yeah. And I don't think.
All right.
Move that we,
I would entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
I move that we come out of executive session. Second.
All in favor?
Want to clarify that? No, I'm good, thank you. As
Okay, is there an item down here that I'm missing? We'll come back and vote on later.
Why don't we do it under other business? I
Okay.
don't see. an agenda item.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. It wasn't put on there because it was a confidential thing.
Okay,
So
so,
we'll go back and we can vote it on other business.
all right. Okay, minutes. I will approval of minutes from April 4, 2022 meeting.
move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm not voting. I wasn't there.
Appointments, recognitions, and resignations. Appointment of seasonal dock hands and boat launch operators presented in the Harbor Masters memo dated April 6, 2022.
I would move appointment of the seasonal dog hands as presented with thanks.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Appointment of Paula Commando as a summer helper in Public Works Department with primary duties in the Buildings and Grounds and Parks and Cemeteries Division at a pay rate of $18.50 an hour and an effective start date of May 2nd, 2022, ending on or before October 14, 2022.
Would move appointment of Mr. Accomando with, under the terms presented.
Second.
All in favor? Appointment of Christopher Grindle as full-time municipal firefighter EMT with an effective date of May 2nd, 2022, at a starting pay of $28.22 per hour.
Would move appointment of Christopher Grindle under the terms presented with thanks.
Second that.
All in favor? Appointment of David O'Neill as part-time firefighter EMT with an effective date of May 2nd, 2022, at a starting pay of $28.22 an hour.
Well, I would move appointment of Mr. O'Neill under the terms presented again with thanks.
And I guess I will second that.
All in favor? Appointment of John Barnes as part-time firefighter EMT with an effective date of May 2nd, 2022, at a starting pay of $26.72 per hour.
Would move appointment of Mr. Barnes under the terms presented with thanks.
Second.
All in favor? Appointment of Sharon Morrell as part-time EMT with an effective date of May 2nd, 2022, at a starting pay of $25.97 per hour.
Would move appointment of Ms. Morel under the terms presented with thanks.
Second.
All in favor? Appointment of Sean Hall as part-time firefighter EMT with an effective date of May 2nd, 2022, at a starting pay of $28.22 per hour.
Would move the appointment of Mr. Hall under the terms presented with thanks.
Second that.
And all in favor? Accept resignation of John Lennon as a temporary part-time employee with the Mount Desert Fire Department effective April 13, 2022.
Would move we accept Mr. Lennon's resignation and look forward to discussing him further later.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, consent agenda, Otter Creek Cove project notes. Coastal Resources and Maine Standard Bypass Notice to PERC for April 2022. Hancock County Commissioners meeting minutes for March 15, 2022. Acadia Disposal District FY23 draft budget and cover memo.
Would move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Selectmen's reports. Well, I do have a report. Has anyone heard of No Mo May?
Yes.
So there's a suggestion it's actually kind of neat where people don't mow their lawns for the month of May, and it saves on all the carbon that's released, and it also promotes pollination and is helpful for beneficial species. It also provides a home for ticks.
Ticks and honey.
So I wanted to bring that up and present that. I think it's something, certainly mowing one's lawn is something to consider with all those various pieces of scientific factoid floating around, but I wanted to throw it out there for people to consider in a public forum.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. Unfinished business, authorized premium pay awards to 2 town employees in the total amount of $1,998.93 using ARPA funds as allowed under the SLFRF final rule, and authorize Finance Director Jake Wright to do all things necessary to issue awards and comply with reporting requirements.
I'll move authorization.
Second,
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Consideration of the information and correspondence of the Municipal Review Committee to members related to identifying resources to move the sale of the solid waste facility in Hamden forward. Okay. Tony? You want to say something about that?
Yes. The concept that was finally adopted by the bondholders to move the sale of the facility along was to have a fixed date, June 30th. To have the facility sold by, with the MRC putting in what's called a stalking horse bid, is basically the low bid, we hope, with the idea that the MRC could end up owning that facility for $1.5 million. To date, we've had serious interest between 6 and 10 prospective bidders. 2 or 3 are very interested. If indeed the MRC is the high bidder at $1.5 million, the MRC or anyone that ends up owning the building will need approximately $20,000 to get it up and operational. The MRC, of course, does not. Pardon?
20 million.
Yes, 20 million, yes. We've been doing research with investment people, banks. If that failed, the MRC would consider, if we are successful in being offered a loan for those monies, the MRC would ask the members if they would provide a good faith guarantee for that loan, basically co-signing the loan. If the MRC defaulted on it, the member towns would be responsible for repaying it. What's in the packet is a survey, basically asking for member towns' thoughts on that concept of good faith guarantee of the loan if it was to go down that route.
Tony, what happens if out of 100 towns, say, just for sake of argument,
Yep.
half of them say they're not interested? Does that basically, that would change the formula dramatically, wouldn't it?
Yes, and it's not so much the formula, John, as and again, the rankings or the level, the spread of money per tonnage in the survey. I'm not exactly sure how that was calculated. I might have done some things a little bit differently, and provide a little bit more education for the people that were interested that they're asking to complete that survey. Some of the results we've seen are, would consider it with more information. Not ready to commit right now. No. Yes, we support the MRC. If there's a question in there or section for comments from the members, from you folks, if you like, if you might want to put in, would consider it with more information available to us. What we're finding is a town can't just turn around in a week or 2 weeks and say, oh yeah, we'll back you for $250,000 or whatever. That has to go, I'm assuming, to town meeting. And would we want to call a special town meeting to get town authorization or not by the end of June? A lot of towns are just saying, no, we're not in a position to expedite something like this. Our town meeting's gone by, it's very close, the warrant's committed, and we don't see this as a special town meeting idea or rationale to hold one.
Yeah, well, I think that that's the only way we could
Yep, okay.
be an authorization for us.
Mhm.
Same time, I think it's unlikely that we would get a lot of interest in a special town meeting before the end of June.
I agree.
Or in co-signing a loan.
Tony, there was mention of perhaps trying to incentivize communities to sign on to this. Would
Yes.
that, I mean, there were no details, but would that be in the form of like tipping fee, maybe reduced tipping fees or something?
Yes, yes, it would be. Or increased rebates based on the calculation that we get quarterly. For instance, the city of Bangor, their charter prohibits something like this. A good faith guarantee, something like this is what we're finding out.
Bangor is one of the big ones.
Yes, yes, yes.
Tony, what is our tonnage rate currently?
$77 a ton, less a $5 rebate quarterly, down to $72 net.
And how many tons?
Approximately 1,800 on average over the last 5 years.
We'd be in the 500,000 to 1 million if we were to use that as a.
Yes.
gauge.
Yes, Darlene, on what you're reading there, yes.
Thanks.
But again, completing the survey is not saying yes, it's not committing to anything, it's non-binding. That was just for informational purposes.
Tony, it sounds like many of the towns are in the same position we are, which they're assuming that the citizens of the town would not be interested in co-signing the loan, but they also, and in addition to that, they don't have time to pull together a town meeting. So what's going to happen if you don't have the this permission to co-sign from the towns when June 30th rolls around?
We would keep looking. One, we would hope we're not the low bidder, or excuse me, the high bidder at
Yeah.
$1.5 million. Two, we would continue working with the banks and soliciting investment people, and would possibly approach one of the other bidders if there were, that were lower than us, to work with us on a partnership, some type of a partnership. If the MRC did end up owning it, we would not be operating it ourselves. We would work with an operator, and also try to entice a partner to help fund the $20 million that would be needed. The thing is, and everybody is pretty much aware, we need coastal. We need that facility. The DEP, I believe, is interested in keeping that facility going. Otherwise, we're going to landfill. And again, this is hindsight's 2020. Why didn't we start this 1.5 years, 2 years ago down this road? the bondholders just now bought into this idea. I think one of the prior entities we were working with was providing them information that they weren't providing to us, and they got their hopes up, and they kept their name in the ring as the only name in the ring. We got to a point where we weren't receiving information we were asking for and severed ties. But I've always claimed the easiest thing in the world to do is critique somebody else's work, and we're getting some of that for feedback, of course, but that's the nature of the beast.
So Darrell, are you gonna fill this survey in?
I can fill it. Send it back. Is there any particular questions you want answered in a particular way?
Well, I think, Tony, you needed answers
Yes.
for questions 5 through 9.
Yes, Yes.
Consent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still, on number 5, do we believe the community would give a full faith credit guarantee? I think I'm leaning one way, but I could certainly be convinced. There's certainly a lot of information we still need. So, I mean, I think I would answer that way just because I'm interested in hearing more details if it comes to this situation. The MRC has to purchase it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that we need a lot more information before
and there is a comment section, and that would pretty much, I could fill out the rest, or Darlene could, the town, whatnot, with my help.
So which of those?
Would be the top one. We could be convinced. And I mean, ultimately that we is the voters in the town of Mount Desert. So, yes.
I'd be more leaning toward no myself. Or member is not interested. Those are where I stand. So, but I agree with you. We need a lot more information, but at this point, it doesn't entice me.
Yeah. Well, I'm in between. We could be convinced and leaning to no, toward no. Theoretically, we could be convinced, right? We just don't know.
Right.
Personally, I'm kind of leaning towards no, but but that's just me. I don't know what the community thinks. So yes, I think we need more information.
So I think either one, if we said leaning towards no, and then we said in the comments,
We need more information.
so
to be convinced.
To be leaning in the
Yeah,
other
Can we make this
direction.
multiple choice?
One of these is positively negative and the other is negatively positive. So, yeah.
I'd like to be a little negative, frankly, because I think we just, yeah, it'd be terrific if this worked, but it's just been so many stumbling blocks, and the idea of putting ourselves in, it's a lot of money to put on the line with no guaranteed results.
Right.
And if they need the money, it's because something's gone wrong.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping this is all just ends up being a moot point personally. But
Yeah, well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
This was to get a sense of A or nay from the member towns. And I certainly agree with more information being provided to everyone, particularly the incentive program to back it up. In the thought process, we have to remember, one, I hope it is moot point, but in the thought process, if it does fail, then we'll be paying what I would consider exorbitant tipping fees, either at landfills or for incineration. PERC has been a great partner through this, that they've helped us. We're paying their bills. But if there's only one hammer in town, one store that sells a hammer in town, and you need a hammer, you're going to pay the price. But I like the idea. All due respect, I'd like it to seem whatever John said, the negatively positive or the positive side of things, positively negative, I guess. Show us the information.
Okay, and it looks like we would fall in the 800,000 range to $1 million. Somewhere in there.
500 to $1 million.
1,800 tons.
Yeah, so There's an 800,000 figure there, which is about in between. Still a hefty amount.
So do you want us to say leaning towards no, and then in comments, you would like more information?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Would perhaps be.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to get that straight. The rest of it, you know, I mean, you get deadlines, the town meeting is gonna be more than 6 months away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
We could put in additional detailed comments, we maybe change our leanings depending on the type of information. that we
Has to
get.
be really good information for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so as long as we know that, we can sort of fill that out.
Tony still has another question.
Oh, Tony, go ahead.
yeah, while we're on the subject of garbage, Martha, you had asked after I completed the recycling survey for National Resource Council of Maine, would the results be shared? I received an email today and asked that question and was told yes, once the results are tabulated of the survey, that they would be distributed or be available.
Thank you.
Good,
Welcome.
thank you. We all set with that?
I am,
Okay,
So-
thanks, Tim.
So
Yep.
don't we have to do 7? He said 7 through 9.
but those are.
Those are
pretty
the
straightforward.
tables,
yeah.
Okay.
Those are pretty straightforward.
Great, thank you, Tony. All right, item B, item C, request from Friends of Acadia to send a letter of support to Senator Collins for funding for the Stanley Brook Erosion Project and consider being the recipient of the project funding.
As you saw, we went back to 2012,
Yeah.
2013, where we entered into that agreement. So one of those things that if we support the grant, we do take on the responsibility of having it and accounting for it and doing all of that reporting. But it's my understanding that Collins's office and things would do most of the heavy lifting as far as achieving the grant. So
Great, it would be nice
Right.
to see that.
definitely I'm correct in that assumption, right?
Yes, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak.
Yes.
Oh,
you
go
are.
ahead, why don't you come up front here so we can all hear you?
Yeah. We'll make Jake do all the heavy lifting. He's the
Great.
finance guy. He's the guy's gonna do all the work.
So Senator Collins' staff did approach Friends of Acadia and say there's this funding source that's a possibility to actually request congressionally designated funds. So they would kind of work on our behalf through the committee process. And the funding would, we talked to the park and this was their top priority, using under the criteria for that specifically designated fund source. So that's why we're here today. Number one, because Senator Collins does require 3 letters of support in order for projects to move forward. So that's the first request. And then the second request is for the town to consider whether you would want to accept the funds. Obviously, Friends of Acadia doesn't make sense. We're just doing this because the park can't advocate for itself through these congressionally designated funding requests. So, so that's kind of the basics of the project. The one thing I will say is that in chatting with Keith Johnston, Chief of Facilities Management at the park, is that he has heard that the VHB, who is the design firm that looked through all of the different options to improve this stormwater situation, they now say that with COVID costs and increasing inflation, that it's actually more like 3 million, not 1.5, which is what we just submitted. So what we would do is, and I asked Senator Collins' staff today whether that was going to be a problem. And she said she didn't think, or Carol Woodcock didn't think that was going to be an obstacle for us to up that request.
Wow.
So
So,
we'd send the letter to Carol, right?
correct,
We'd
yes, yep,
Send it on to Senator Collins.
that's correct, yep. And I'd be happy to even prepare a draft for your
Absolutely,
consideration
yep,
tomorrow.
yep.
Yeah,
That's great.
good.
I have a question. Under this, in this memo, under the support and services to be provided by individual team members, it says for the town of Mount Desert, work to seek state and or federal funding sources to implement the project. Is that, does that just mean accepting and facilitating, or does it mean actually writing the, no?
I don't think you'd have to write, I mean, this, was signed back in 2013, this agreement,
Yeah.
but my understanding is that you wouldn't have to do any of that part of it. I
Okay.
mean, just the letter of support
Right,
actually is
okay.
fulfilling your portion of the agreement, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure. Yeah, yeah, it looks great. Great. I wish we could double all requests that easily.
Yeah.
Well, and it's never a done deal, even if
Right.
we try, it could still be an attempt that doesn't go through.
Right, sure,
Give it a shot.
yeah,
Pretty clear need here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
So do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
So I would move that we take a draft from Stephanie and sign a letter to support for the funding project for the Stanley Brook erosion project as presented.
Second that.
Good. All in favor?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks to the Friends of Acadia.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
New business, public space, special event application, MDI Farmers Market, Northeast Harbor Village Green, Thursdays, 9 a.m. to noon from June 11th to September 8th, 2022.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Public space, special event application, Ingrid Neumann, Summonsby Park, Sunday, September 4th, 2022, noon to 7 p.m.
I think I would move approval with the understanding that the space will still be open to the general public during that period.
Second that.
Great, and that's part of the verbiage in the.
That's in the letter anyway, right?
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Public space special event application, Cadillac Challenge Aid Station, Joanna Fogg, Seal Harbor Green, Seal Harbor Village Green, Sunday, October 2nd, 2022, 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Public space private placement application, Emily Fuchs, Seal Harbor Village Green. Okay, this is for Scythias, right?
Recipient.
Yeah. I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Mandy Fontaine, doing business as Abel's Lobster Pound on the Shore LLC, request for liquor license renewal.
Would move approval of the renewal.
Second.
All in favor? Elmer Beal Jr., doing business as Burning Tree Restaurant, Otter Creek Drive, Otter Creek, request for liquor license renewal.
Would move approval for the license renewal.
Second.
All in favor? Request authorization for the MDES 8th grade class to hold a bake sale at the May 3rd, 2022 open floor town meeting.
Move authorization.
Second.
All in favor? Vote to elect to use the standard allowance of up to $10 million, not to exceed the town's total ARPA award allocation for identifying revenue loss pursuant to LSFRF final rule and the U.S. Treasurer's project and expenditure report user guides.
For most of it, I bet Jake, that's something
Yeah.
to answer, Jake.
Well, essentially, this is in response to the fairly complicated reporting standards that come along with ARPA. One of the questions that it asks is if we will be accepting the standard allowance related to the revenue loss category. As of right now, the board has not indicated or even had any discussion that, you know, there are goals to use that category of expenditure, acceptable expenditures. However, it is stated that this is going to be a one-time shot to accept the standard allowance. So my recommendation is that we accept the standard allowance to allow for flexibility in the future. A lot of this is, you know, us making our best effort to listen to what Treasury is saying and try to navigate this 1,000-page document and the, you know, the corresponding statutes that they're pointing to. But as of right now, I'm convinced that accepting this gives us the most flexibility moving forward.
Sounds good to me.
And to clarify, in no way does this obligate funds to be used for any specific purpose. This is purely an exercise of creating flexibility for the future.
I think it's a hedge during the initial, we did not lose any revenue. Actually, we gained revenue, but down in the future, if we should have a catastrophic revenue loss, if something happens, then this would give us the opportunity to go back in and recoup some of that if we so choose by using our ARPA funding.
Well, and to piggyback on that, we actually give with the standard allowance, we're not required, if we accept this, we're not required to actually disclose or show revenue loss to be able to expend funds under that category. And as I pointed out in the memo, the revenue loss category is the most flexible of the categories. It can be used on general government services. So if we ran out of things that we had specifically identified as things that we wanted to spend ARPA funds on, and we were running out of time because there's a time frame in which to use them, then revenue loss would be a good place to to spend the remainder of the money. And so accepting this standard allowance at this point gives us flexibility in the future to make those expenditures.
Good.
So I would move that we elect to use the standard allowance of up to 10 million, not to exceed the town's total ARPA award allocation as presented.
I'll second that.
Good, all in favor? Consideration by the select board of approving the two non-substantive amendments to each of the 1, Article 2C of the Acadia Disposal District Interlocal Agreement, and 2, Section 60 of the Acadia Disposal District bylaws in order to reduce the frequency of meetings of the ADD directors from at least 10 per year to 6 times per year, as described in the memo dated April 12th, 2022, from Public Works Director and Acadia Disposal District Chair Tony Smith to Town Manager Derwin Lunt Jr. Said memo to be included in the minutes of this meeting of the Select Board.
Move that we approve the two non-substantive amendments as presented.
I'll second that.
Good, all in favor?
Thank you.
Consider executing a temporary lease agreement with the town of Bar Harbor for services from the Assistant Fire Chief to assist in the operation of Mount Desert EMS operations. Such agreement shall expire October 31, 2022.
I would move that we execute the temporary lease agreement with the town of Bar Harbor for the services of their assistant fire chief under the terms presented.
Second.
Good, all in favor? Okay,
Thanks.
other business?
Oh, yes, you want to do the consent?
Yes, the consent agenda. No,
Or executive session.
the consent agreement.
Yeah, it was that session.
So,
You don't have to give any.
That's right.
details.
So I would move that we approve the administrative consent agreement as discussed.
Second.
good, all in favor?
And I'll abstain.
One abstention.
Good.
Good, thank you. Treasurer's warrants. Yes.
I have a small item of business. I've been trying to recruit somebody to help with the live stream of the town meeting through the high school. And the teacher there suggested we offer up some pay, cash pay, to help motivate somebody to volunteer.
Sure.
And I just wanted to just get your approval to offer up something for that work.
Oh, sure, I mean,
What are you thinking?
something minimal, modest.
I
Yeah,
would think $100.
So it's probably a 2 or 3 hours commitment.
Oh,
Thinking 150 maybe.
Yeah, 150, you good?
we can use our select board
you can use.
discretionary for that.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, good,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
In other words, kind of whatever it takes.
Okay, yeah.
Make
We gotta
them
make
an
that happen.
Make them an offer they can't refuse.
Well, I would say could we make it so that Kyle's got some discretion there, because maybe it's a 2-person job, or, that,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Not to exceed $200.
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
I would say even 250. Let's be safe.
okay.
Okay.
3 million.
1 million.
I hear 20 million.
That's the number of the day.
That would be good though to get that.
Good,
yeah.
A lot of people will want to watch. that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Do we need
the
to-
special town meeting video was not very good, so I got a lot of feedback, so I'm gonna try and improve on that.
Did we use the L for that one or tried
We did
to?
use
Yeah.
yellow, you can't do that
Yeah.
in a big room like that.
The
I
owl
mean,
is
the
about-
sound is terrible in there to begin with.
Yeah.
People
So-
in the audience couldn't hear, so.
Will will you see if they can use the equipment that they have at the high school too?
That's the intention.
Okay.
That's what they did when we had the meetings
Right.
up at the high school parking lot.
Yep.
And very nice video camera.
Yep.
I didn't have the video camera, so.
Right.
I
Okay,
need the tool for the job.
Yep.
so.
exactly.
Yeah, they have all kinds of
Technology.
We just need
technology
a
and
person
support
that
up
knows how to
there.
run
Yeah,
it, Which is not.
interested students.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Do we need to vote on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I would move that we authorize Kyle to seek out some student assistance with the filming of the or streaming of the town meeting and authorize him to spend up to $250 in doing so.
Second that.
Good. All in favor? Great. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Treasurer's warrants, approve and sign treasurer's warrants is shown. Town invoice AO 2259 in the amount of $677,541.83.
Move approval and signature.
Second,
All in favor? State fees and payroll benefits, AP 2257, AP 2258, town payroll PR 2222, and PR 2223 in the amounts of $192,444.60.
move approval.
Second.
All in favor? One abstention. School invoice number 12, number 13, and number 21 in the amount of $261,908.60.
Move acknowledgement.
Second,
All in favor? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Good
All in
work.
favor? Huh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Pretty good. That's a good agenda.
Well, there were a lot of hires.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, a lot of
It was like-
different things.
Just kept going and
I thought that
going.
on that too. Take that time.
Well, it's nice to
Thank you
just
for
know
calling
we're
all
not
that out.
really committing to anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
My fear with that is everything that